Okay, my friends, these are the pictures from Venus, just declassified by the Russians. And what does that have to do with my leather belt? Which is, you see that, genuine leather. All right, now what we're going to do is look at this in a microscope. I'm going to see what it looks like, because you see those little balls? That's interstitial, my friend. Okay, I have the microscope on my belt right here. I'm going to show you this in a minute, which just has the same stuff. And here is the Mars blueberry. I mean, these are the Venus blueberries. And here is my belt blueberries. You see those little black balls? Those are the same things, only those are rolled and crushed. These fibers, you see those fibers? That's what interstitial is. You see those fibers? They pull away. Every one of these black balls had a fiber going to it. Let me get to the loop that I usually use right there. Look at that. You see how they're all pulled away from the balls? These are those black balls, the same black balls as those black balls. Now, where else are they? Well, they're on Earth and they're on Mars. And I can show you this interstitium in exquisite detail. All right, don't forget the black balls right there. And here they are right here. That's the toe, that's the foot. I call them no toes. They're right there. That's it. I'm coming right down from the scope, coming down. We get a little closer, but that, I'm telling you, that is a foot from some creature that is not us, but pretty close. Well, I need to get some funding. I never wanted. I figured somebody would take over and do this stuff without any funding. I don't want to get that deep into. Well, I do want to get that deep into it, but I thought somebody would take over and do this stuff. Nobody's going to do it. So we need to get some funding. We need to do some tests, see what the heck is going on here. I don't know what these things are, but they relate to what was talked about in the ancient past. And, you know, as far as I could tell, this stuff didn't happen that long ago. Velikovsky, who is my hero, and I believe everything he wrote about every culture on Earth had the same story. It was only 3,500 years ago. And then Hesiod was only 800 years ago. And he was writing things that were talked to him by the daughters of Zeus. So Zeus must have been around pretty close to that time, too. And that's only 800 BC. Now, are those things true? Are those fairy tales, as we would call them, myths? Well, I'm telling you what, I'm finding out that I can validate a lot of things that were said. Not everything, obviously, but a lot of things have shown that they have a lot of validity. And even Velikovsky talking about Venus, and you'll see in a minute about his statements about Venus, almost hit Earth. It caused a great flood. And the Exodus and all that stuff was during the same time. The Earth was up in the upheaval, cataclysm, unbelievable. And then it went all the way around and actually hit Mars. Now, can we see a scar on Mars? And you would expect to see one on Venus, too. Well, guess what? Yes, we do. Okay, that is the no-toe. That's the skin on that creature's foot. And that is the foot. It's not a shoe, but that is leather. You see the little fibers and everything? The same things that was on my belt that I just showed you. Now, here it is right here under the microscope. Now, let's take a quick look at this in its entirety, because it is a foot. There's no question about that. And it is not a shoe. All right, can you see that? All right, let's get back out of here. Okay. Now, this is the exact same place we have a very high concentration of blood in our foot. Exact same spot where we have the tibia comes down. Exact same place where we have the fibula comes down on the side. It's anchored in 3 spots here, which are just nothing more than ligaments that hold it sort of gooey up against the other bone. This seems to have some kind of a sole, and they have springs inside of them. I show, we got a lot of these. And they happen to be in the flood too. And I believe this one died laying that side right there. It's just flat on that side. And almost all of them that I have basically have a flat side. See that goose? This is my goose Caesar Augustus. There's his feathers. He died in the Great Flood, just like that. They all died with one side. Now this is a bone. What happens is, because it was a hot water flood, and that's because Venus almost hit us. This planet here almost hit us. Then it went on to hit Mars. And it literally boiled the oceans and waters and everything else. That's what they claim. 7 days coming at us, just brilliant. And then all of a sudden, boom, right off our atmosphere. And literally combusted the atmosphere, condensed it to where it formed rain, but it was boiling. And on top of that, the Earth cooked, and it's made the Earth stand still. And they had a great worldwide flood. And Yale says, yes, there was a worldwide great flood that preserved all my mud fossils, just exactly what I'm saying. They confirmed this in 2016, a year after I presented all my evidence to them. So it's been confirmed. This, my friends, is biology right there. That's on Venus. It's the same as the Moki marbles on Earth and the Mars blueberries. So let's look at the evidence. That's what I'm asking you to do, is look at the evidence. Before we get too deep into this, I want you to understand, literally everything on Earth preserved, and it preserved wherever there was membranes, wherever there was collagen. I know why now, and it's because of nucleophilic substitution. We got all kind of papers coming out on this. And that's a lung. And that's where the entrance to the lung was, and that died flat like that. They all died in this flood, and it boiled the flesh off. The flesh became mud. It became clay, red clay. The redder it is, the fleshier it is. And every single bit of your skin has these balls everywhere so that they can stretch and pull and come back. And there's straps attached to them, as I showed you in my belt. Because cowhide, genuine cowhide, is nothing more than leather. And it's on every creature, has the same pulley, stretchy stuff, and it all comes back. Let's take a look at the anatomy. Okay, you saw the Venus blueberries. These are the Mars blueberries. They are the same interstitial balls that are on Mars, Venus, Earth, and I imagine all the planets have them, because I'm telling you right now, I think everything is biological. That's exactly what they said in the ancient texts, and I have no reason to doubt it any longer. Okay, don't shut your mind off. Those are the balls that are in the skin and so forth, just as I just showed you. Those are called the interstitial balls. And those are the things that they're everywhere. Those are the Moki marbles. What do? They invest in your skin, and so your skin can pull this way and that way and that way, and they all come back on these springs and these stretchy little rubber bags, the fluid-filled bags. And where else are they? They're the Moki marbles on Earth. It's the same, identical as the Mars blueberries and the Venus blueberries. These are the same as these, only they're bigger. And that, my friends, is flesh and skin of a gigantic creature. This is what we don't, in our mind, we haven't been able to rectify this. They look at all these things and say, whoa, 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 this is fantastic. Well, let's take a look. This is this. You see this? They call it the mucosa, skin, mucosa, intestinal lining, whatever it is. It is a membrane. These are membranes. Below the membrane is these fluid-filled bags and these webbings of collagen, so you can pull and do this and everything come back where it's supposed to. Well, guess what's up on Mars? They call it the Mars Morse code. Remember this very carefully. Pay close attention to this pattern. And what would you expect to happen if there was no moisture and you had all of this pattern? We know the balls are tough as hell. They don't erode. All the other stuff erodes. Well, the gooey stuff here erodes first. And then you have these little webbing, strappy things that run back and forth. But the real stretchy stuff, that erodes much easier than the balls. That's why all you see here is the balls. You don't see all the little stretchy things like I showed you in my belt. Same thing here. They're gone. They're very weak compared to the balls. But on Mars, we have a different story. There is no erosion because there's no moisture. Okay, hold on to your interstitial. This is it. That's interstitial. That is skin. It's called the Mars-Morris Code. I'm not sure of the dimensions here, but it is big. And these are the gathered together skin area, this one and this one. This is the stretched skin area. You see the balls are stretched out? That's just like on my belt buckle where it pulled out the little straps. Now, why are some of these balls just all by themselves and the straps are gone? On Mars, there is virtually no moisture to speak of. So what happens? They get sandblasted. Because there's dust, there's wind and there's dust and so forth. And they end up having this sandblasted texture. You see this? This is literally the guy's flesh underneath the skin area. This is the basement below the skin, stretchy, gooey stuff. And these are stretched out, and where they're risen up a little bit, they get eroded more. Very weak stuff. Well, it's not weak, but these babies are tough. So you got two levels of weakness. You got the real floppy stuff, and then you got this stretchy stuff that hangs onto the balls and brings them back. That's the springy stuff. The other stuff is the floppy stuff. That's all gone. That's what it is. I know. Don't tell me. Trust me. It freaked me out too. There's nobody can't get freaked out about this. These are the Mars blueberries. That's the basement layer of skin. All that floppy stuff is gone and eroded away. On Mars, I don't know how this got eroded away more than the... This is very small, that's why. But maybe there was moisture in this spot at one time and it dried up. I don't know. But I can tell you what, these are the Moki marbles. They're all over the place. And that's skin, this is skin, that's tissue and a mucosa, membrane, skin, whatever it is. And don't forget, we're talking this, and it's us, it's this. This is staggering. Absolutely staggering, the size difference. I mean, if anybody, and look at how small it really is. You see this? This bullet right here is right there. This right here is this. And this right here is the membrane, because there's membranes everywhere. I'm going to show, and you see them on Mars, you see them everywhere. These are the membranes, and we always thought these were layering. It took 100 million years for that layer, 100 million years for that. No. And these are gigantic on the Earth. Absolutely gigantic, these layers. Absolutely gigantic. You see this? This is the Mars crab. That is an artery. These are little blood vessels. That's a vein. It's right down here. These are sarcomeres, muscle sarcomeres. And they're the same things that are at Petra. Petra was carved right in a place like this, right into an artery. And that's all it was carved out of, is blood. All right, I made a statement about Petra. And the same thing on Mars. It's the exact same muscle sarcomeres. These are eroded away and leaving all these little tiny connective tissue bands. But this erodes, and all of the red stuff erodes out. This is a contracted muscle. This is a, relaxed muscle. But this is what erodes out. And they can slip like this. This is just a, anatomical of this. But watch this. This right here, my friends, is the exact same thing. Now, what is all this dust? That's all the stuff that eroded out. I said there was red stuff and then there was connective tissue. Connective tissue doesn't erode. Very tough. You see, it's all over. The blood feeds it because muscles take a lot of blood to work. And this is what came out of it, is all the red blood cells. And that's why it is the red planet. Because there's nothing but eroded red blood. Australia is just one big gigantic scab. It's like a solid red blood blotch. Now, it's just amazing that this stuff was written about in the past. They said everything was made out of biology, basically. That's what they said. Even Jesus Christ said the earth is a corpse and a body, or a corpse and bodies, or something like that. So I'm showing it is. And Venus and Mars, And I imagine all the rest of them. And I'm seeing the same stuff on the moons. And this, again, was exactly what was written in ancient texts. And the whole way the Earth was created and our planet was created was the sky wedded the Earth. They had sex. And then everything populated from there. That's what it says. And all the cultures say the same thing. There was chaos. And then I think it was darkness hung over the waters of below or something like that. And next thing you know, we got life. And virtually every one of the ancient texts says the same thing. And I go through them all. Hesiod, Ovid, Plato, all of them. Apollodorus. Hesiod really was basically one of the first to write. And he was instructed what to write by the daughters of Zeus. And this was only 800 BC. That's only 3,000 years ago. And all of this destruction that happened to Mars, that happened to Earth, with the cataclysm, with the flood and so forth, was only 3,500 years ago. That's what Velikovsky said. This is what destroys everything in academia, and they were furious, as they are right now, with me. I'm being suppressed as much as anybody can suppress anybody. You look at the number of hits I get. People are getting 300,000 hits showing nonsense. I'm getting 2,000 hits. Showing stuff that should overturn history, should make everybody stand up on their tiptoes and say, wow. But very little response, very little, no interest whatsoever in academia, not one question even about my research over the last 15 years. So you got to take it to the streets, my friends. That's all I can say. If you're interested, maybe it just freaks you out too much too. But I wouldn't go paying for an education not knowing, I just showed you the sarcomeres here. You see this? Where do you see what Petra is? I told you Petra's carved out of an artery. You want to see if that's true or not? Of course you do. Where is Petra? Petra, where are you? Oh, here's Petra. There it is right there. Guess what all these are? That's muscle. Those are the sarcomeres. I'll show you very up close, and then I'll show you inside the treasure is nothing but muscle. All right, now, these carvings through here, nobody carved those. Those are arteries. That's where the arteries ran to service all these blood vessels. But the main feeder was here, and they carved that just like you would carve a piece of clay. You see that? That's Petra. These are the sarcomeres. You see those blocks? Those are the muscle sarcomeres, and they have the two different colors. I think I have a shot to show you. They actually had to put little holes in here, I think, so that they could let some of the moisture come out. And they just carved this like putty. They probably, it must have been somewhat damp. And above, this is nothing more than connective tissue and red muscle that makes it do this kind of stuff, which is muscle. This is inside Petra in a treasury. This is all connective tissue and muscle. That's where the blood fed into it. This is connective tissue. How could nobody have noticed this? It's stunning. Stunning. Okay, my friends, let's take a trip down a memory lane. That right there is one of my early finds, and I can tell that because I still got my tape recorder. I used to tape record video and all this stuff. This is one of my early finds, and this is, I wasn't sure what it is, and I'm still not sure what it is, to be perfectly honest with you, but I can tell you one thing. This is either a bone emplacement or a bone, and this is all tendon right to here, and then this starts with the muscle. This is the glue, and it is really glue. It's, when you see it in a microscope, it's absolutely amazing, and it glued right into here. Now, this picture is quite dry, and you need to put a little moisture on these things to really see them correctly. But I can tell you right now, that's some form of a bone. I think this might be a hip or a shoulder. I'm not sure. But what I want you to concentrate on is this section right here. You see this? This is the section, and I'll show you. I think I have other pictures of this that make it clearer. But this right here, this is the glue. Boy, I'll tell you, that is gnarly stuff. And this is tough as hell. This exact section right here. There's a little dot right here that holds this tendon. This piece here is a tendon. And then right here, what's called an abrupt transition. You see it right here? It goes into muscle. And the blood primarily feeds the muscle. Some of the blood ran out over here. But there's an artery in here. Just like up on the Mars crab. And this is all the sarcomeres. You can't see them because they're not big enough for you to see. But this is all tendinous and fibrous muscle and so forth. And that's the blood. And this section right here is tough. And that little white spot right there, that's the tag. Wait till I show you where there's one in the ocean. And what happened in the ocean was this eroded away, and this stayed up. And there's grass growing up on there, because you got the bloody stuff at the top. That's where they love, is the bloody stuff right on the outside edge of your body. That's where your grass grows. All the plants. They love blood. Below that, it's just nothing but tendon and stuff. So this is what you're going to see in the ocean. This one piece right here. And don't forget, like I said, watch for that dot right there. It loops right around like this. And holds it tight. I mean, this thing here, man, they're never going to pull out of there. Your tendons do not rip out. They will break, but I don't think they rip out. This glue is like Gorilla Glue on steroids. Okay, my friends, freak out time. Remember I told you that little dot there, and this thing came across here, and then there's an abrupt transition where all the muscle is. Back here was where the bone is. That's the piece I'm talking about. This is that little piece of tendon. Guess how geologists think about this? They think that laid down in another 10,000 years, and then that one, this, and it kept going, and this was some big... No, that's a piece of tendon. And guess what they say? Millions of years in one picture. No, not millions. Why would it just be laying out here like this? This is the tendon. That's the tough stuff. I'm going to show you some better shots of the muscle and how this tendon attaches. And don't forget that dot. I showed you the dot. Hey, if the dot is there, the dot is there. All right, here's that same piece of muscle and bone and so forth. The bone comes out to here, and it's that side. This is the tendon that we saw. There's the dot that I showed you on the one in the ocean, and there's that white stripe running across. Heavy, heavy, heavy duty. No blood in there. Almost no blood. It's tough. It's just tough. That's why it doesn't erode. This is all muscly and blood. You see the blood? These are actually arteries that feed. You see the red? Anytime you see red coming out of a tube, it's an artery. Now, I'm sorry, this stuff, it's just amazing how this is all missed. This is actually muscle tissue. And what happens is, you go from the tendon, which is tough, and it's just about that much. That's it. It's the attachment between the anchor and the muscle. It gives a little bit, but that's it. Then out here, this does this. I mean a lot. Now, these are the muscle fibers. You see the red in between the white. The white is the connective tissue. That's the stuff that can pull and so forth. And this is nothing but heavy-duty connective tissue. Even though you see brown and you see white, it's still all basically connective tissue membranes. Here, you got a lot of blood, and that works with the connective tissues. You see? Now, why are we looking at here, these broken off like this? That's what's called an abrupt transition. This is an abrupt transition. There's an abrupt transition here where it starts to get less mineralized. What I mean by that is that in here there's going to be a lot of inclusions in there which give it, a toughness. It doesn't go from completely tendon, which this is, to completely muscle, it goes an abrupt transition out to about here, and then there's another abrupt transition out to about here, and then about another little bit further, it's just floppy. All right, so that's the way muscles are constructed. And that, my friends, was what we just saw in the ocean. In my opinion, I have presented significant evidence to show that Mars, Venus, and Earth are products of biology. Now, Petra, the Mars crab, the blueberries, the Moki marbles, the interstitial, the tendons, Petra, muscle fibers, blueberries on Venus, interstitium on the Mars Morse code, United Kingdom Huntington's Beach, gigantic tendon balls with the layers of flesh, very easy to see. Petra, just a giant muscle carved into a chunk of blood. All the things I'm showing you here, new species. And we have some that have eroded down to a point where we can see precisely what's inside, and they ain't got no bones. They ain't got no bones. They got springs instead of bones. And this one here, I don't know, it looks like a sole on there, but I'm going to tell you right now, that is the guy's foot. That's not a shoe. That ain't no shoe. And the bones, everything with a membrane on it, anything that had collagen. What happened? It turned into feldspar. Excuse-moi. Feldspar is aluminum silicates with inclusions. 100%. So what does that tell me? It tells me that all membranes have an affinity for aluminum silicate, which are right next to each other. Aluminum silicate, somehow they fused together with some other transition metals, whatever it was, and created the coating that wrapped all these, even the feathers. Feathers are nothing more than collagen too. Oops, all the coatings and membranes, everything on your body, basically, and even the connective tissue is pretty much collagen. There's tough ones, and there's little floppy ones, and there's like really, there's all kinds of different body chemistry. You have to learn all this stuff, or you don't have any clue as to what you're doing. Even this here, look at this. I knew about this layer back in 2010, and I contacted a guy who specialized in sports medicine, a couple of people actually, and one of them really engaged with me, and we're still engaging today closely. And I said, well, what is this stuff? He said, oh, that's just fuzz. And I said, I saw these balls all over the place. He said, they just got little fibers, and it's just to keep your body from bouncing against, like so you don't get bruises and things. I said, I don't know, man. Can we look at this a little closer? And sure enough, he engaged with me. He does autopsies. And then within a year or two of looking into this, he put out another video, because it was the original video I saw was, what's the fuzz, or what about fuzz, or something like that. And then a year or two later, he put out another video, say, reconsidering fuzz. Reconsidering, I guess it was reconsidering the fuzz, something like that. Anyway, I don't want to drag him into this because he's got a career, and people don't like to be brought into this unless they agree, and he helps me and I help him, but I don't want to damage anybody's life. And people, once you're in the academic realm and you start talking about this stuff, yeesh, they come after you. Ben Stein just did that video of Expelled, and it has a whole series of professors that all they did was talk about how life started, and they were done. It's Darwinism, is it? That's been settled science. No discussion about that allowed. All it does is confuse the kids, and then all they want to do is talk about giants. I mean, I'm not kidding you. That's what these theology professors were discussing. Oh, I can't stand it. All these kids, all they care about is these giants. That's all they want to talk about. They're too inquisitive. Because they say, we're seeing this on the internet. Is this true? No, it's not true. People are idiots. And that's basically what the guy said. He said, you want to see some nonsense? It's quite a spectacle. And this is a guy that's supposed to be studying religion, and not a single religion on earth, not one, doesn't mention giants or dragons. I'm telling you, it's a much different world than we thought it was. Now, are you ready for this brave new world, Aldous? Aldous Huxley brought Brave New World. And this is, this is brave on steroids. You got to let your mind open up. If you couldn't see the things that I presented today, there's very little hope for you to be able to accept things that have evidence. And there are people like that. The evidence means absolutely nothing whatsoever, as we've seen for years now. Everywhere in society, everywhere. From the top to the bottom. Evidence is nothing anymore. I got a bunch. I should show you these little truth blips, They're so cute. I got to show them to you. Hold on a second. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. You will be assailed. But if you don't speak the truth, what's the life without truth? Society becomes so fake that the truth actually bothers people. Absolutely. They actually get a physical response. I'm not kidding you. Believe me, trust me, I know about this. Global crisis, time for the truth, international online conference. They probably shut it down. What else we got here? What's this? Roger Sparrow, sure. Here are two different links. I don't know what that's all about. Truth Social. Yeah, I put things up on Truth Social. Nothing happens there. There's no Truth Socially anywhere that I know of. Listen to this. It was cute. Social media, the game show. Sorry, Ann, your answer was actually correct. But Paul shouted his opinion louder, so he gets the point, and an extra bonus point goes to Sue, as she was offended by your answer. This was a show I used to watch when I was a kid, to tell the truth. But no one cares. That's true. Nobody does. It's actually a tragic comedy now. Truth is no longer hidden. Now people are hiding from the truth, and that's a fact. I mean, absolute fact. What do you do about that? Because they can suppress you. Trust me, my channel is way suppressed. I only get a couple thousand hits, and that's it. Same people over and over and over, but, it needs to be brought out to a bunch of people. So you're the ones going to have to share it. You're the ones that are going to have to push it around to other groups and places and say, it's time to stand up. Talk to Roger Sparrow. Talk to Mudfossil University. Get this done. Just get me on Joe Rogan or somebody. I never get a single response, and I know why. My emails and so forth come with messages, be careful, the guy's insane or something like that. I'm serious. I get those from other people too, and it comes right away with a big yellow warning across the front. And what do? You want to click on that? Not likely. So anyway, speak up, and they will try to do what they can to stop you from speaking. Now, I applaud YouTube for being very, very fair to me and allowing me to voice my positions on these things, but I do it with evidence. But I'm very frustrated, and sometimes I do lash out a little bit. I don't mean to. So, and I'm trying to get a little more control over my feelings, which, you get a little bit bitter after 15 years of dismissal from literally everyone. It basically is a very disruptive thing in your life, and almost everybody that has been fully engaged in this also understands that, and has lost a lot of friends. I mean, basically everybody. and jobs, husbands, wives. when you no longer want the truth, you will push it away so hard that you lose people over it. But if you want the truth, you try to present it. Don't push it on anybody. Don't force anybody to listen, but don't back down from it. And mention it. Don't say, I've always been told to be quiet. I'm not kidding you. From family and everybody else, I'll be quiet. Nobody wants to hear that stuff. So, why don't you just talk about something normal, like, I don't know, Wheel of Fortune or something. I don't know. I never expected the response I got. I thought this would be so well received and people just wouldn't, be able to get over this. Wow. And it would just spread like wildfire. No. She said, didn't happen. So, all I can say is we got to keep trying to bring the truth forward. And if what I showed you now doesn't change your entire worldview and history and everything else, I can't imagine that's possible. It's just impossible. This is earth-shattering. And this is possibly eternally relevant, because it appears to me that the things they wrote about in the past have been shown to be pretty accurate. Now, what does that mean for your future? I think life goes on after this life, and if you didn't learn from this life, you're in trouble. I think this is the one where you have free will to do as you see fit. And the ones that were bad and took advantage and had no compassion and so forth, I was basically in that position in my early days. I didn't know any better. Now I know better. And now you should know better. And everybody should know better. And we have to talk about this so you can know better, and you have to please God. All right? If you ever see any of these ancient stories, and you're actually living to please God. And if you do, I think you get into the next realm. And if you don't, I don't think He wants you. It's the way it looks like to me. I know we started out with science. Well, science is nothing more than religion that's suppressed. Science is a way to corrupt reality. And it has terribly. And everybody's starting to talk about it. I'm seeing science, we can't trust science anymore. That's correct, you cannot. It is just nothing more than a dismissal system with peer review that will not let anybody talk, that's not allowed to talk. And trust me, I will get very, very few views on this, even though this is earth-shattering. Now, I'm hoping Mikhail Kaku would step up and say something and just mention it. That's all he has to do, is say, there's a guy that's crazy out here. Look what he's showing. That's good. That would be fine. Get it exposed and say, I think he's crazy. Good. That's okay. I'm good with that. But let me show my evidence. And then maybe, we can talk about it. I would expect that response from anybody from mainstream. Absolutely. The guy's insane. Yes. But if I have evidence, I should be able to show it and have it seen and have it examined. And that's exactly what somebody put in something on artificial intelligence the other day and said, what if I had this, this, and this? And then artificial intelligence came back and said, that would change this in our history, it would change this in chemistry, it would change this in our everything, one right out. And then it ended up with saying it would basically completely change everything that we thought. Artificial intelligence is smarter than real intelligence, because there is no more real intelligence anymore I can find. The intelligence is gone to opinion supported by nothing beats facts. Right across the board. So hopefully Mikhail Kaku will work, or Bill Nye, or somebody that has the ear of the public. I mean, it's unbelievable. Some sports star maybe. those are the kind of people that people listen to. I'm serious. It's just, and I don't have a problem with that. People are engaged in their lives and they're trying to find something enjoyable. I'm not upset about that. I just want this to be known, to be part of your life. If you're living in delusion, if you're what I call perfectly happy deluded, that's what you find in the upper echelons of academia, PhDs. It's time to change this. It really is. I mean, it's just amazing. They can demand the kind of money they demand and walk away from the truth and absolutely demean and dismiss and denigrate people that come up with the truth. Very, very disconcerting. So let's see how this works out. But push it around. You saw what I had to show. I'm not showing nonsense. I'm showing everything I showed you here. And I forgot to talk about the Mars. Here's the Mars crater. That's an impact. This is wider than the United States. Mars is not that big. And that is only Mars. Well, what happened to Venus? Same damn thing. Here's the Venus scar. That one there looks like it crashed here and scraped across, or crashed here and came up this way. But that's all written in the ancient texts. Venus was born, literally erupted out of Jupiter, out of the great red spot. And I will show you, I can pretty much prove that happened. And at that time, it came out and spit out basically towards Earth and hit our atmosphere and caused all of our havoc, and then slammed into Mars. So this is a scar on Venus. It's hard to read it. Now, it could be it hit here, and that was the major impact, and then it started to bounce back off and take off this way. But anyway, somehow it hit here, and that was and it came back up one way or the other. It's going to scrape across. Now, what about the other one? Same thing. This one here is on Mars. I would have said this is the impact, and right down across that. These are just absolutely gigantic. There's no reason for that to be there. That's the only reason. Somebody put their claws in there and go like that? I don't think so. I think it was exactly what was written in the ancient texts. Exactly. All right, let's just go through these real quick. First of all, I want to point out that if space is saturated with particles, all of these have fields. Any particle coming through these fields slows down. It's opposed by the particle fields that are in front of it. We have no idea where we are in the universe right now. None. We say light never slows down. It slows down drastically. These could be very, very, very close to us, and we have no idea where they are. None. Zero. That light coming through there is not shifting away because the planets are expanding. It is just slowing down. And they slow down pretty damn fast. You see that? I had a guy tell me, oh, no, the particles, they just come straight through. Space is a vacuum. I said, you got to be kidding me. You can't even be serious. He said, oh, yeah, space is a vacuum. And they say the same thing. I said, Bill Nye, just the other day, space is a vacuum, light never slows down. These are all fields. Light is a magnetic particle, as I show. It has a field around it, and its field concusses with. You see this? This is from Curiosity, I think, from Mars. This is what's on Mars. Now, what's up on Venus? Same stuff. Same stuff. And then you see all these little tendon balls. That's from where the skin was. And they're up on Mars, too. I know I've shown you all this stuff. Now, what about, and of course you can see that this here is the muscle fibers. This is up on Mars. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? And all the dark is really veins, usually vein blood, black blood, used blood. There's some more of Mars. That's all biology right there. That's all muscle sarcomeres. It's highly eroded up on Mars. This is Comet 67P, right here. Look at this. Now, do you remember the muscle I showed you and it had these fibers? I'll show you again just so you make sure you understand. This right here, this circle, and these little pinchy things, that is biology. And all of this right down here is runoff of the red bloody stuff, just like up on Mars. They collect right down here. That's all blood. That's all ferrous oxides and blood. This right here, these little pinchy bundles, you see them? Those are, I believe they're either muscle or a tendon attachment that goes to the side. Because you have tendons that goes one way, this way here, and then the main one goes up. It depends on where it was attached in the body, and I have no idea. But I do know this is the anchor. All right, this anchors into a body of a creature somewhere, and then there's a little neck. That's the tendon. I told very carefully. I told you about the tendon. Then it turns into the muscle. The muscle was up here, and that's all just burnt off and turned into meat smoke in space. And that's what the astronauts say when they go on a spacewalk. When they come back in, their suits smell like sirloin. I'm not kidding you. Now, why do we see comets give off these, what they call comas? They always used to say, oh, it gets dust as it comes towards the sun. It is not dust. It is not by any means dust. It is literally barbecue smoke. Okay, this is what we're looking at on 67P. It's this type of deal, and these are not, they don't have any blood coming to them whatsoever. They are anchors. They're actually pockets. These are the straps that come out, and they're flushed with not a lot of blood, but there's some blood coming up. There's little blood vessels coming up. So those, if it was broken right here, the blood vessels would be shooting out their little gases, and one major artery comes down to feed them all. Now check this out. This freaked me out when it came out. This is 67P. They sent a lander up on here. They orbited this for, I don't know, quite a bit. And then they dropped what they call the Philae lander. And it landed down somewhere down in here somewhere. And again, Comet 67P. Now, what are we looking at? That is the artery. That's the monster artery that it feeds all of these little blood vessels. Remember, see all those little red tubes coming up? And this thing here was the anchor ball. And it must have anchored in right about to here into something. I don't know what. But these look like little latches that it looks like it must have anchored into something here, or I don't know. Whatever. But I can tell you what. These are blood vessels, just like it showed in an anatomical shot. Some of them now are shooting out to the sides in all different directions. Depends on where the blood was facing, where it had to go to feed. These aren't just nothing. Those little things are blood vessels. Way down in here, shooting up their gases out of here. You see it? And there's no gases coming out. These are anchors. That's how it stays so solidly into whatever it was locked into. And then coming up here, let's look at it again in a second. But this one here, look at that baby. All right, look at that's serious. Now, let's take a look at it again at the anatomy, just to be sure you understand. That's what this is, a tendinenthesis of some absolutely enormous creature. So we have really no idea, because it said that the planets were all biological, and I have no reason to doubt that anymore. None. All right, you've seen the anatomical shot. This is actually 67P. Let's just really home in on this. Again, that's just the eroded blood coming out of these little pinchy bundles of flesh or tendon or whatever it is. I'm not exactly sure, but they're straps, I can tell you that, and so are these. These are the same straps as in all tendons. They come running out from the enthesis, the ball, and then right about here, I told you there's an abrupt transition. They just break off. And this stuff here is the fleshy part where it's just all you know, eroded away. All right, and you saw all the blood, I mean, all the boiling things coming up. Now let's take a look at the size of that blood vessel. Where do you see the size of this thing? It is enormous. All right, let's take a look at that big blood vessel that was boiling off. Remember this one here? How big do you think that would be? Think about it. These are all the little blood vessels coming off. Little bitty ones. Here's some blood. Here's some blood for you guys. Have a nice day. We'll be back in a few minutes for some more. And this one here is bringing all of that stuff down. What size would you think this was? You don't know what size the comet is. So you're never going to figure this out. But I can tell you what. It's good size. All right, I showed you the comet. I showed you the comas coming out and what I claim are the blood supplies. That right there is the artery that is blowing all this big stuff out of here. Look at the size of this. 40 meters. That's about, let's go with 120 feet. Okay, so you got 40 meters. There's 40. There's 80. There's 120. It's like 160 meters across. That's pretty big. 160 meters, that's 450 feet or so across there. That's a very good sized artery. Now, what is this? These are the blood balls. These are what they call them, dragon balls. These are the little blood vessels. These things are saturated with blood vessels. They go everywhere through the tissues. If you don't have them, the tissue dies. And that's the size of that thing. Isn't that amazing? Now here it is on top of Raleigh, North Carolina. Bad day for Raleigh. There's the enthesis. There's the stalk. It looks like a bone was up in there. I don't know. It's pretty apparent the flesh was wrapped around the bone or snugged up to the bone or something. And that's what it is. Pretty hard to deny what you see. Okay, I think you might find this interesting. They claim this is two stars colliding head on. I see a lot of interesting structure in here. The things shooting out something similar to what we see elsewhere. Now they can see different minerals and metals, and they see magnesium and so forth coming out of here. These different colors mean different things. They can see iron, and when I watched the video about this, the guy was actually patting his body, saying we can see all the same things and the metals and so forth that are in your body coming out of this. Now, is that two stars hitting head on? I don't know. I see some very interesting details here that, to me, I understand as a biology person, but I could be wrong. Quite interesting. This was very, very bright a couple hundred years ago. They could navigate the ships using this, and then it dimmed out. Now we can see it with our new fancy little toys that can pick up all of these different frequencies. But is it two stars hitting head on? Or was it a comet that was glowing very brightly at one time and not so brightly now? I can guarantee you there's absolutely no idea where we are in space. That could be right down the street. They think it's 100 billion light years away. There's no way, they have no way possible they can understand that, because they don't understand that the light in the universe is slowing down. So when we look way out there and say, oh, that took 100 billion years to get to here. No, it didn't. This is like all kind of particles in front of it. It's everywhere, everywhere. So if they tell me this is a vacuum, I can't believe that's what they really believe. And I showed you the fields in space. I think I did. Let me just show you again. Every particle has to come through these fields. Fields in space, where did you go? Here, fields in space. Everything has to come through these fields. So every time you hit a field, you were going to slow down. That is just no other way to understand it. And I can show that. And here's all the particles coming off the sun. That's the solar eclipse. You see these three red spots? The sun is spinning in this direction here. These are the poles. Everything's moving in this direction, and it's spinning in this direction. That means these are the impact points, and they get very bright in the equator and the two middle zones, and they create their own big magnetic fields and radiate all kinds of particles out into space. Now, this side here, it's coming around. This side just trails off and is moving with the particles that were going forward. This one's going into them. This one's coming away from them. So you don't see the same intense effect here. But everything is, I mean, if you think that's not particles, then you got an issue. Those are particles. Light is a particle. I showed you, or will show you, well, let me just show you one more time just in case I didn't or you missed it. Okay, these are the tiniest particles anybody has ever found. This is right from Fermilab. They found them, no clue where they came from. They are attached together as dark matter and the electron shower matter. Here they are together. They call them gluons. When they come through our venturi, these particles break apart. That's fission, that's fusion. This is the acceleration phase, where it comes from just a particle coming light to accelerating. You're not supposed to accelerate light, even in a vacuum. We're accelerating it in the atmosphere, which is already concussed back. That's why there's so much glow. It's pushing back against it. It says, whoa, 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 don't come this way. And the light comes like crazy. That is an increase in energy. And it's because of the Venturi effect. It's crushing the fields. Instead of hitting them head on, they're just being crushed sideways. And Rod Warren did this work and did a fabulous job at this. And he's opted out for some reason in the last few years. It's been very frustrating to do this. But anyway, this coming through the air, you see this here? See those particles? Any light coming through the air has to push past those little bitty particles. They push back. That's why you got the glow. Anytime you see glow, it means you're slowing down. All right, it's slowing down. It's glowing down. Light, when it hits something, slows down. They've proven this. It's not something that they haven't proven. They have actually measured this. I don't have the article here. I don't know. It's got it around somewhere. But they've measured this. It slows down and stays slowed down. Everything I've shown you needs to be discussed. And they have to go back to the drawing board on everything, really. Because electron flood theory explains all of the interactions of particles, even biology, chemistry. Chemistry is much more elegant than these little doodles they do. You know, everything is made of dipoles. There's a lot of discussion to be done here. So they're asking if it slows down, yes or no. I can show you it slows down. Here's the blue laser slowing down right there. You see how... And that's what happens to every particle as it concusses with other things. Right? And that's why things glow. When that particle hits it, it bounces back. And I'm going to leave it at this, my friends. I think it's time to start paying attention to the things I've been showing. This is the pure white raw electron neutrinos. This is when they recombine with the black muons. Where the black muons come from, I have no idea. But they must just be laying around waiting to attach back. These are just nothing but raw white particles. We need to harvest those right there. Shoot them down through a photodiode, which is only lets it go one way. It's a gate. It goes in, they can't come back. And the black keeps slapping it. You see how this is coming through with a vengeance? This is like a jackhammer. And the white stuff just keeps getting pushed. And it's normally quite passive. It's just sort of rolls around and is directed by the black. But in this case, the black is just slamming the hell out of it and pushing it through here as a squirt gun, basically. So if we can collect those white particles there, that's all you want is the white ones. The white ones are the ones that do the job. And they say if you can do this, you can get hundreds of billions to trillions of electron volts increase. Now, if that's true, this is free energy. And like I say, this is, all you need is a laser, cheap. You can have thousands of them in one little box. Shoot it through here, through a venturi, and collect just the white. You can vary the speed of the pulses, you can vary the color of the lasers, you can vary the transition metals that are going to receive it, because you don't need solar panels. You're going to be inside. Well, let me show you something. This is what I'm envisioning, something not much bigger than this, that you could carry around in the woods, and this should power a car or a house even. I mean, if they're really getting the energy that they're talking about out of this, this would be a staggering amount of energy that you could stuff into this. And it wouldn't get real hot, shouldn't get hot. This is just light you're working with, and it can power itself, and you should never have to do anything to it. This is all very, very, very simple stuff. It's all solid state. All you got is a little venturi, run it through into a battery stack or right into your device, and then let it find its way back to home. Right now, when this comes back and joins with this here, they're done with their energy. Up here is where you got to get that energy before it gets back to this. When it hits here, you got nothing left. Up here, it wants nothing more than desperately to get back to those black particles. You see every one of those little spritzes trying to find its way? Look at that one. Right up to there. Right over there. They just want to find a black particle. That's their whole mission in life. So if we can catch them before they get back to the black particles, we can run them through our devices and heat up whatever we want to heat up, run motors, drive cars, whatever we want. And then let the little bugger get back to the black. All right, this is the light from the pulsed red laser. Here's where it starts to accelerate. That's where it breaks the white from the black. In the meantime, it's stacking up, causing neutrino values, which are more and more change of mass until it reaches its optimal mass, which is a photon. Then the white is the only one that can squinch down to go through. Black's too big. The venturi is tuned to keep the black out. You see, this is right here. This is right at the venturi. There's a little tiny slit in there. You can't see it because there's so much brilliance. But this curves around this way, and this curves around this way, and there's a tiny, tiny slit, and it's got to be smaller than that, or down in that range of almost nothing. And the white can come through because the white can squinch down and it can get real big, and the black just comes up and goes bam, 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 and squirts that white through. But at every spot where there's white, it wants nothing more than to grab onto some black. So if we can get into here and use that electricity and then let it come back up to the black, we're good to go. That's the way it works. And this, if this is it right here, there's the venturi, the bam, 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 squirt, 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 use, 0, 0, 0 money. Almost, this stuff should be dirt cheap to make, and it should be very reliable. Energy, it wouldn't hurt the environment, and it's safe. All you're working with is light, and all you're doing, and the light has no real value, no impact value. It's like a fluffy little thing, an atomic bomb. It burns the house completely up, and then when the black comes, the house goes. And I can show that in our experiments too, and what Rod did to show the black pushing the white. You see, this venturi is allowing a smidge of the black to come through. See the black? It's pushing the white ahead of it. The other time, just the white was allowed through, and it had to come back and grab onto the blacks here. It's a totally different dynamic here, where we're letting the black come through and push the white ahead of it. The white is concussing. That white should be the same size as the black. When we saw them in the photons, the black balls were exactly the same size as the white, basically, right in the same area. But the white can get big or it can get small. If it's pushing against something, it gets big. If it's just laying around, it goes right down to nothing. This is being pushed forward by the black, as I showed you before. Bam, bam, bam. But in this case, we're letting a little of the black through with it. Before, we just had the white coming through. Okay, I suppose it's time to leave it at this. This is space. It's saturated with dust and light and debris of every nature, fields that are opposing everything. We really have absolutely no idea where we are. Hubble and all the rest of them, they take nice pictures, but as far as measuring distances, doesn't work. We're spinning through these particles, and that's why we're so hot in our outer atmosphere. It's thousands of degrees out here. Out here it's millions, and it's only 10,000 on the surface. On here it's 100 on the surface. It's almost 3,000 out here. How did that happen? Why should it be so hot? It's the scrub against all these other particles. That's the ionosphere. For here, it's the corona. It's that the outside edge is scrubbing like hell. And did you know there's moons on the sun? Well, there is. And that's what creates all that turmoil as it's spinning through all these particles that are smashing into it. Just like all the turmoil here. Only we don't have enough mass to create fiery turmoil. We have enough to create hurricanes and floods and nightmarish scenarios like that, and lightning and everything. But if we were as big as the sun, we would be doing exactly the same thing. We'd have the same emissions as the sun. It's just a bigger ball scrubbing through whatever's in front of it. So it's time to take this into a different perspective. We just got to start to think and discuss. I've been not able to communicate with people, and I'd love to be able to communicate. I'm hoping Dr. Mikio Kaku will allow me to discuss this, or will at least comment on what I'm posting here. All right, somebody, please. I don't care who it is. You know, like I say, we may need a sports celebrity or something like that, which has the ear of people and can say this. Because once people see it, there's no way to turn away from it. But they can't see it because it's pretty much taboo at this point. So I suppose that's going to be my last words. Now, what I want you to do, I've been doing this for a very, very long time. Comments, discussion. I got 15 years on the Mudfossils. I got 50 years on the rest of the stuff. My stuff is DNA tested, CAT scanned. Roger at mudfossils.com. ROGER, no D's. That's it. Thank you, my friends. I'd like to see this to the end before I get to my end. So please, step up. Just mention these things. Don't be brash or nasty about it. Just say, wow, there's a lot of new research that's pointing to the fact that some of these ancient stories are not as crazy as they seem, even though it is crazier than it seems. It's not. It's a hard thing to talk about. Like I said, speak up, even if your voice has to shake or your lips are quivering. You know, living in a fantasy world is not for me. So it's up to you if you want to be perfectly happy, deluded. Well, that's your way of life, not mine. All right, I love you all, and I hope it does something. I hope you guys see something in this that makes you a little inquisitive. Curiosity it doesn't kill the cat every time. In this case, I think it could save the cat. Let's find out. Okay, let's discuss the speed of light and where we are in the universe. Well, modern physics rests on the foundation, which is a notion that the speed of light is a constant, which in a vacuum is 186,000 miles per second. Einstein established a theory of general relativity. Everything's based on the speed of light is a constant 186,000 miles every second. He developed that in 1906. That's over 100 years ago. But what if it doesn't? No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't stay the same speed. It slows down as it hits other matter and fields that are in front of it. And I can show this. I can demonstrate it very, very simply. All right. You see what's going on here? This is turning this way. It's because everything here is pushing the arms back. They're concussing with this, so it folds the arms back and ends up cranking it like a wrench and creating this in the center, which is all the white particles are coming together. When they come together, they don't go the same speed, they slow down. Every particle in here, which is planets and solar systems, so we're in here one of these arms. We have to plow through everything in front of us, and here's how we do it. Here's what it really looks like, is this. And everything's spinning this way. This is 4gifts.com. Everything's spinning around the sun in the same direction, although Venus is spinning in the same direction as we are, only it's not rotating in the same direction. It's rotating counter to what everybody else does. Now, everybody else spins the right-hand rule. Venus spins left. That means not only is it going through here, scrubbing through all the particles in front, just like the arm of the Milky Way, it's going backwards as it does it. Now, why does the Earth spin as fast as it spins, and why can I say that it could very well have stopped spinning and then just spun back up again? The reason is, it's going around and around and around like this. Now, if it was stopped and not spinning, sooner or later, its atmosphere would start scrubbing against this, and it would come this way, and it would start spinning itself. And eventually it would come to a harmonious resolution with the particles, and it would stop at that specific speed, because that is the value of the impact, makes the Earth turn at a certain speed. Now, we could start spinning a little faster or a little slower, and we may be doing that right now because of our expansion of our gases. Let me show you what happens in the outer atmosphere of the sun and of all the planets that have an atmosphere. Sun has an atmosphere, and that atmosphere is what's scrubbing through space. And way out at the corona, way out here, it's millions of degrees, and on the surface only 10,000. It's because it is plowing through everything and heating up. This is it right here. This is the outside of our atmosphere. We have gases that coat the surface of the Earth. Completely around the whole globe is a layer. At the end of that layer is the ionosphere. All right, the ionosphere is the edge of our atmosphere. So as we spin through space, that atmosphere's got to go with us. It's scrubbing anything that might be in the way, and there is a ton of stuff in the way. So we scrub against everything, like the particles of light, the dust, gases, everything that's out there. And there is it's just saturated. All the magnetic fields, we have to push through them. So our atmosphere hits there. As we're swelling our atmosphere, which is from fires, anytime you burn anything, convert it from a solid to a gas, we're blowing up the atmosphere. And that's what global warming is all about, because as it gets bigger and bigger, it gets scrubber and scrubber. And it just gets crazy. And that's what's going on now. That's why we're having all these tornadoes and floods and hurricanes and hail and lightning, and all that is interaction of scrub. And the more inflated our atmosphere becomes, the more scrub. It's not a hard concept to understand. Okay, my friends, this is a stunner. I've been going back through all the ancient texts trying to understand who related who to who, because there was the Sumerians, there was the Greeks, there was the Romans, there were some other groups in there. They all had separate names for the same entities, but they all worshipped a plethora of gods, and each area had its own god, except it appears that there was one major god, Marduk, who was also associated with the planet Jupiter. That's the one I really studied, is Jupiter, because Jupiter is the Greek word for Zeus, which is the Roman god Zeus. I believe I have it that way. Yeah. Jupiter was the mythological, they say, Jupiter, and Zeus was the Roman Jupiter. And this calls it out. I mean, exactly what happened here. Marduk somehow is associated with this thing, which is a dragon. Marduk is a Babylonian form of his name. Now, the name Marduk was pronounced Mantuk. The etymology of the name Marduk is conjectured as derived from immortal son of Utu, or bull call of the sun god, whatever that means. The origin of Marduk's name may reflect an earlier genealogy or have cultural ties to the ancient city of Sippar, dating back to the 3rd millennia BC. That's 5,000-ish years ago. Now, Marduk was here, what they're saying, he was here up until like 1500 BC. He was here up until the second half of the 2nd millennium BC. So that's not long ago. That's only less than 4,000 years ago. And he was the god that was worshipped not that long ago. And if he was associated to Jupiter, and Jupiter is Zeus, Zeus's daughters were the Muses. And the Muses taught Hesiod to write our ancient texts. And these scholars have degraded these ancient texts just like they're ridiculous. How could any of this stuff be true? They're talking about dragons and giants and all this stuff. Well, it all has turned out to be true. So we need to start over and look again. And the ones that won't look will never see, they will never understand, and that is not the way you're designed to do. If you're a thinking person, you better start thinking, because this has a lot more to do with eternity than it has to do with today. Today, it's just today, it's another day, but I'll tell you, these days go by fast, my friends, and when they're gone, you better find another place to hang your hat. And you don't want your hat catching fire, if you know what I mean. All right, I am not going to get into the details right now, because I really don't know them, and it's going to take me a long time to study them, and I want to just sort of gloss over the different early texts. What we uncover later will be more beneficial than trying to get real deep into each one after the others. Let's just see what similarities we have, and then we'll start talking about the details that support or go against those similarities. Let's try to keep it simple. But Marduk appears to be Enki, or Marduk's original character obscure, but he was later associated with water, vegetation, judgment, and magic. His consort was the goddess Serpenit. He was also regarded as the son of Ea. In Sumerian, that's Enki, and Dharmakina, and the heir of Anu. But whenever special traits Marduk have, he was overshadowed by political developments in the Euphrates Valley, which led to people of the time imbuing him with traits belonging to gods. So they say, they just gave him traits of gods. He really wasn't God. Well, let's see what they say. So the people at the time imbued him with traits belonging to gods, who in an earlier period were recognized as the heads of the pantheon. There are particularly two gods, Ea and Enlil, whose powers and attributes pass over to Marduk. So he's taken on the reins of power. Let me show you something I just got today from somebody. There's a pantheon in the United States in Nashville. Where do you see this thing? Blew my mind. This blew my mind. I can hardly believe it. Look at the snake. Look at the size of the goddess here. Now, apparently this was what was in the pantheon. I'm not certain of that, but I believe that's true. And this was the statue that was similar to this. It's obviously not the same one, but it was this big, and it was in the Pantheon. And they have this whole thing set up down. Very, very amazing, to be honest with you. I was really blown away. This is in Nashville, and look at the details. A snake. She's holding some kind of wheel of fortune or something. Look at this. Who's that? And is that the Medusa head? I don't know. I can't tell. But the yikes.